Over to you, Joe, for your final case study.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, Henry. So I thought I'd start the kind of case study with a quick kind of self-reflection to start with. Like the reason why kind of behind why I basically started this process altogether. So I had three kind of like key objectives when I look back, right? Like the first one was certainly building confidence. I kind of got to a place where I'd been moving from company to company, delivering features, and all honesty, had always been looking to like someone else to define a strategy. You've probably heard a lot of me saying things like, we don't have a clear strategy, but I didn't really have the tools at hand at that time to know how to really start this. I was in the weeds, like ensuring more focus on like delivery aspect of product. And therefore like didn't really feel or couldn't truly define the impact I was having like on the business as a whole. And then, like I realized as well very quickly that over the last couple of years that the metrics I was delivering against didn't really have like a clear strategic driver. So therefore it was really difficult for me to speak to stakeholders and tell them, we can't do X because this is more important than Y if they had like very similar value, because there was no clear kind of like focus of the product team I was working in. So yeah, it found it extremely difficult to prioritize as a result. So confidence was certainly like a point of, of really wanting to do this. And then the objective two was like building that confidence, and part of that was like thinking strategically, so building up that strategic thinking, but also having like a practical application of this, right? Like I think I've read tons of books about thinking strategically, but like actually being able to put this to practice and how to do it in an organization was super important for me. And then also just finding like this building this concept of a learning habit. Over the last few years, I definitely like backed off of that, like constantly thinking about like continually learning throughout the entire career and process. So that was another kind of reason. So let me jump in, I guess, to specifically into the like product process and overview that I took as part of this. The first one is like validating the problem, making sure that whatever you think the problem is the actual problem that a customer is experiencing. Then validating like the offer, so like your clear value proposition to that customer. Does it actually solve the problem that you think it does? Then making sure that that offer lands in a strategic way, right? So not just not then just having like an offer which doesn't then actually deliver against what your customers want. And then finally, like the process would have been then to validate the prototype, but I'll walk through these kind of all one by one. So this was the original problem statement I had, which was basically like independent gym owners are really struggling to achieve financial success in face of high competition. I actually went through three iterations of this, and this is where I kind of landed. So particularly independent gym owners, like there's high competition, and their overall like outcome they want to drive is like financial success. Like that was, and I felt like lots of people were struggling with that. Based on kind of conversations that I'd previously had with like gyms, and I'd seen lots of gyms shutting around me. So that was where I started with this specific problem. And this mattered to me really because like I'm a big believer in like gyms being this sense of like shared community, and like creating a healthy habit as well for many. So the first objective really was like to identify these acute problems. So the focus was, doing discovery calls. And the second key result really was like actually validating how the best channel for outreach. I'd spoken to gym owners before, and not a number of them are like hugely active on LinkedIn, things like Facebook, Instagram. So there's also testing out like the right channel to connect with them. So as part of this, like one thing I noticed when trying to actually organize these calls is like gym owners were extremely busy. There was a clear lack of time. And also outreach was actually, I struggled with, because reputation like really matters. They gave me feedback like, people on LinkedIn, like people are really skeptical of what salesmen, they're limited time, so they don't want to waste even more time. And actually what lots of business owners and gym owners I realized is that they actually have like a really positive business outlook by default. They're not always willing to say that they're struggling. So that was kind of some key things. Interesting enough, like it was actually really, really difficult to book and speak directly to gym owners. I had to take a slightly different approach of actually going into gyms directly. At this point, actually, like I failed on one of these key results at the beginning. Like we actually didn't do any specific discovery calls, but one successful thing actually was that I ran social media or had limited success. So I actually then changed my approach later on to factor this in, because social media and LinkedIn just wasn't the right place to connect with these gym owners. So I kind of came to this, like this offer as a result of that. Like the feedback I received from some gym owners just on comments was that You know, they actually didn't think they had like a big problem here. But speaking to like one new gym that had recently opened, it was more like just growing their like new member base and doing it like quickly, so growing that. So the first kind of objective here was like validating with these kind of two gym owners that this specific minimal viable offer, which essentially is like the value proposition of your product, is like really clear, and it actually resonates. And I'll talk through like how that went, and then also focusing on like differentiating, with like the Blue Ocean strategy canvas to make sure that there was like a clear where you could basically outcompete particular competitors in that area. And also running through kind of a product vision, and that was kind of the key results that I wanted to drive as well, like selling a story of how, as a business, how I could offer them this opportunity to do so. So the MVO, that minimum viable offer I put out to customers, was that really like we wanted to help gym owners overcome member stagnation by like building lasting connections with members. One piece of feedback I instantly received from customers was actually that they didn't think they had this, as I said before, this kind of stagnation or this decline. So there's a lot of pride with business owners. So they actually didn't recognize that this was specifically an issue for them. And you'll see later then how I adapted the product vision based on this. The other benefit of using the Blue Ocean strategy canvas is it really showed that lots of existing tools were focused on just helping the admin side of things, but weren't really helping gym owners like connect with members, see which that members actually out there were like potential new members were also like looking to find a new gym. There was no platform out there basically trying to help connect members to gyms and gyms to members. And then, like one clear benefit of using this Blue Ocean strategy canvas was that was identified as like a clear place where no one else was competing. Lots of business intelligence platforms, lots of networking events platforms to help people like build up their brand, but nothing actually solving this problem of like member decline or member like kind of stagnation. So really focusing on growing their number of members. So I got off the back of that, I got to focusing really on the fact that what independent gym owners really wanted was like financial security and success. It wasn't specifically just around like growing members. That was kind of one part of it. But like what the feedback I got was actually they essentially care about successful business. So gym owners definitely didn't resonate with the idea of like stagnation and decline. Again, like very proud, probably not willing to admit that there was a struggle here. A great example I got was, if someone leaves the gym or someone doesn't join, it's their problem. They weren't committed enough, rather than seeing it from a perspective of a business, which is like, if you're losing members, you're losing revenue, and you're essentially losing like potentially your future of your business. So that was one thing I heard back from gym owners when positioning this to them. And therefore, that's why I kind of pivoted to this more positive like vision around actually partnering with independent gyms to achieve financial success and security, rather than being focused on like the negative side of things around like decline and stagnation, which clearly didn't resonate with these gym owners. And then the kind of third objective based on this like vision was then to create like a clear roadmap and strategy which delivered against this vision. And the Blue Ocean strategy canvas I spoke to before really helped here, because it enabled me to spot a gap that actually this connection of new members to gym owners was like a clear place where no one else was competing. And then really like making sure that when I was building this product, not only were we focused explicitly on like it was a problem to solve, that we could actually monetize this, right? So that's why we looked at the lean canvas. So actually we could focus on, okay, like where are we actually going to make revenue from this product? And give it like a broad overview of like where the costs. So thinking more from like a business perspective, which then feeds really into like the fact that then building like a semblance of like how you could structure a team to deliver against those specific revenue objectives as well. So the kind of strategic roadmap I ended up with, again, I said before, but like really focusing on connecting members to gyms. But the focus was like really trying to match the right members with the right gym owner. And but I didn't want to like completely break like the cycle as well of how people currently like get introduced to gyms. So I focused really on matching members, and then making sure that gym owners and members had like basically met the correct criteria. So getting members to visit the gym, getting them to trial it, and eventually like really driving them to become like paying members. Like if you deliver on all of those, then it's really likely that you can create like long lasting like retention at those gyms. So that was really like the way the strategic mobile was really aimed at, as making sure both gym owners and members were the right fit for each other. Yeah. And then where this kind of led more broadly was then like how actually, as I said before, I struggled kind of specifically targeting lots of gym owners. And one piece of feedback I also got throughout this process was that they actually wanted to see something, right? They actually wanted to have something put in front of them, because they actually found it difficult to like visualize exactly how this is going to help them. That's why I ended up looking specifically like a prototype, probably like low fidelity, which at least gave a gym owner a semblance of exactly how it would work and how it would operate. And really still at this point, not specifically trying to just look at usability or like whether or not it's feasible, but like, do our customers actually get the concepts? Do gym owners actually find value in this? Does this concept like matching to a member provide them value? Or one concern I certainly had here was like, do they feel like they're already doing this and they think they can do this themselves? So they're already kind of doing this matching in their heads, and whether or not this would actually help them. So that's why I landed on kind of a low fidelity user prototype here. And as I said before, like the lean canvas also really helped in terms of being able to position exactly like the overall problem, it kind of existing alternatives, as well as like how I could imagine we could also grow this. So I also thought that a big channel would be for like word of mouth growth, and making sure that really like the unique value proposition was making sure we kind of found loyal customers. So it wasn't just we'll provide a huge funnel of every customer that's looking to find a gym, but making sure it really matched to that gym. And then also this gave me a really great appreciation for like how I could actually monetize this, right? So focusing on a subscription model based on the concept of like building a network effect and a moat around the product. If we get all the members and all the owners kind of operating on this platform, it makes it a lot easier to make sure that people aren't leaving, and building this kind of network effect between gym owners and members. So that was kind of where like subscription model kind of came as an idea, because once you've got like a platform for people just doing this, you share it by word of mouth, it becomes a lot easier to monetize this as a result. And then kind of finally onto that, so focusing on both sides of the coin in terms of like, in order to drive this network effect, I'd need teams to be structured, focused mainly on like two core things, which is like making sure that customers, gym owners looking to benefit from this, that we'd have a clear team function to basically make sure that owners like sign up to the platform and that they don't leave, but also then making sure we have enough members actually activating on the platform on like a daily, weekly basis, so that like from both sides there's at least a number of options, and at least a minimum number of people that are likely to be matched to a gym. If they sign up and there's only 2 people, it's not going to be a useful platform for them. So it'd have to be team structured around driving both ends of that spectrum. Also, I mean, the kind of next steps for this really were then like driving that initial prototype. So specifically, one thing that I was looking to do next was like put this in front of customers. That's where like we'd be doing next. So that did have some low fidelity prototypes for doing this, but didn't get around to putting it in front of customers. But that would be specifically next step, is like taking them through the journey and making sure that we got like really understood that the value risk was worth it. And then overall, kind of based on this entire experience, the clear thing that came out for me from principles and these things that I'll look to apply across each company I work for is actually it's not just a product manager's problem to like understand customer problems. Actually, a role of a PM is that, from my perspective, is that you should be connecting everyone with clear customer problems. That like if you can share and tell a story, everyone thinks about things in the right way and makes your job a million times easier. And then also like being that problem solver that your organization turns to. So a clear value here is that if you're the person that someone turns to, you can build like a real status for yourself within that organization, and be the person people turn to when there are like bigger problems as well, and really value your input. And one thing as well, like the final two things was specifically around like value risk. So I've spent so much time focused on the delivery risk side of things. Like, are we going to deliver on time? But actually really focusing on like, is the thing we're actually delivering a value to our core customers? And that kind of feeds, I guess, into, like building a roadmap, which is focused on outcomes. And we define, like a feature based on the outcome it's trying to drive, rather than just the fact that it's a feature that we can ship in X amount of weeks or months. Yeah, and then just
Awesome.
to summarize,
No, go ahead.
Just in terms of like the self-reflections, that I actually feel like I did achieve all of these things. Like I feel 100 times more confident than I did going into this process. I feel like I have real practical strategic steps which I've already started applying to like the new company. And as well, like I've started this learning habit, and I don't want to let it go. Like, it's been a real kickoff for me to realize that the biggest investment is investment in yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, really good presentation. Nice, Joe. I'll quickly bang through feedback on the case study, and then we'll slow down and sort of talk about next steps. Yeah, I love the intro, specific that phrase about you're complaining that we should be more product led, and then it's super common, and many people sort of stuck in that forever. So I think awesome that you sort of switched to action. Yeah, I always love your problem. I think it's such a shame that addressability was an issue, but also that for you is a really good learning now to go, we can have an acute problem. If we can't get access to market, like we're in trouble, or it's just tricky, or we might need some funding initially to sort of get access. So it is a really good learning. One criticism would be something called bridging. So, and I get, you're busy. So I mentioned you tried to rush this together to some extent, but how things flow into each other. So rather than just saying like objective 1 was this, and then key result 1 and 2 were these, we don't even need to use those buzzwords. We can say, so once we understood the problem, next step was to understand, is this a real problem? What's going on here? That's why I wanted to go speak to my users. So I ran 5 discovery calls, and here's what I learned. We don't even need to mention discovery call, OKR, whatever these terms are. So just that as a random person, I can follow the narrative clearly. OKR2, yeah, I love the pivot, by the way. And what was interesting here, I don't know if you felt this, but there are times when we have sort of realization about our niche without even speaking to them. You just go like, oh, you sort of see it from their perspective suddenly, like the shift in emphasis, right? And it can happen. Obviously, we still want to validate it, but we tend to get a good sense. And the more experience, the more sort of good sense you're going to have. Link to the bridging point. Just explain terms. Sometimes you said, here's the MBA I put out. I'd be like, what the hell is that? What is an MBA? What are we trying to do? So even in just simple terms, like, so once we had an idea of sort of what we wanted to offer, we would just put it on a landing page to see was our audience actually interested in what we were offering. Simple as that. Roadmap, I thought it was good. As you did, you covered the outcomes, just stay quite high level there. So they go away understanding like what are the sort of main steps there without thinking about fixed solutions. Lean canvas, very good. You dived into the things that I'd be looking for from a senior PM, like revenue models, which one made sense rather than just sort of listing them. Network effects as well, and there talked about that. And you're clearly comfortable with those sort of business, having a business hat on, which again is essential at your level. And principles, good. Yeah, I would be disappointed if you didn't make these your own. Again, you got more experience. Like, always customize these, because ultimately you're going to be passing these on to your teams. You've got to believe in them. The next steps, usually I've got a list of 5, 6 things. Your case is really simple. I've just written, keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, it really is as simple as that. And I think your self-reflection slide supports that, of taking what you're learning and applying it, and you're just getting better at these things. You're going to get better at facilitation, you're going to get better at communication, you're going to get better at strategy the more you're working on it, coaching another area. So just keep doing what you're doing. And then, longer term, one thing to improve upon it, always strategy and business knowledge. If you're not someone from an MBA background, just depth in types of network effect. Your Reforge, I think, might be a good place for you as well, longer term, to look at specific topics like product-led growth, these kind of advanced product strategy with AI. but not now. I would just say keep applying what you're learning, and then at some point, you know, some might make sense to go into sort of one in-depth theoretical topic because you're able to apply it straight away. It's not a bad thing to do a theoretical course. What do you think in terms of your next steps? Maybe like areas you want to focus on moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely think like the one thing that currently struggling with just in at this like kind of company is like there's still a big belief in like PMs being on the delivery side of things. So it's like
It's going to be
really trying to convince them that yes, sure, I can add some value here, but the value I'm going to add is actually doing, and that's where they've had a really big gap. Like I'm at the moment trying to still like reverse engineer, like the value prop of something which again like has proven out that it's not really going to add value, but we've spent like 6 weeks building it, right? And it's just like still trying to convince, and I think storytelling is the way that's going to work really.
And also storytelling plus repetition. You know, I don't think it's Prometheus, but there's a Greek god pushing the stone up the hill and never getting to the top. It is like that, you know, repeat. But you'll get there with it. And you know, get sleep by example. Like, you will start getting results, and then you can start pointing to the results. So I think don't feel persist and just really stick with it. That's my main advice.
Yes, I think that's the thing is at the moment it's trying to, like the big thing is what I'm trying to do is also build up like a level of like customer understanding across the organization as well.
Yeah, you need to roll as well.
Because at the moment, the way people think about customers here is so broad. It's just like we support everyone sending, to Africa, and it's like, sure, but that's also not, and that's why the moment our growth strategy is really limited to like price experimentation, which is just a complete race to the bottom. Exactly. So trying to pull people out of that focus and be like, okay, well, like if everyone's competing on price, you're always going to have these like kind of failed experiments, when you're basically moving the price around when your revenue takes a hit. So that's where I need to spend a ton more effort.
Yeah, I think exactly as you said, storytelling plus I think you start getting some wins under your belt, and then you start obviously building sort of trust and gravitas in the company. And that's the way forward. Awesome. Well, look, we'll wrap up there. Stay in touch with the community. Any questions as well, just reach out to me. I'm honestly more than happy to help, for advice where I can. And probably see you at the next meetup, hopefully, as well in person.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, sounds good. Thank you. Nice. I'd just like to say thanks, Henry. It's been awesome 8 weeks. I feel like I probably, I think I always chastise myself on some of stuff, but it's always like super. It's been a great like 8 weeks. It's been a challenge as well alongside work. But I'm like,
you're one of the few that I've just seen you're putting this stuff into. You can see the impact, and you really putting it into to practice, which is like that's what it's all about, right? Ultimately. Everyone does a good job, great within the Prod MBA, but go and actually deliver on it after, I think, is where the real value is. So, congrats to you as well for putting the work in there. Awesome. Well, look, do stay in touch as well, particularly at this sort of like stage, you're trying to push change. Just reach out with any questions. There's a lot of stuff not in Prod MBA that I can send through to you as well. Yeah. Cheers, Joe. Have a good afternoon as well.
Sorry. You too. See ya.